Good morning, everybody. I'm on New York Times, so I apologize in advance if I slur any words. I'm Amanda, and this panel is What's Fading, What's Booming, and What's Emerging in Music Rights. And I've personally been working in music rights for over 15 years as a publisher, a manager in the music tech space, acquiring and licensing rights. And I think we can all agree there's a shift in, how we are monetizing, reporting, adding new types of rights. But here are the experts to talk about it. So just to start, can you guys each introduce yourselves, please? And just tell me a little bit about who you are, where you work, and at a very high level, what you think is like your biggest challenge as it pertains to rights in your work right now, if you can say that succinctly.
I start?
Yeah, you start.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Serge Vloubès. I'm head of music at SABAM, the Belgian Copyright Society. And I have the pleasure to coordinate all the activities within the music sector of SABAM. And my biggest challenge, I have two challenges actually, is to keep a fair balance between what the customer wants, and he wants easy access to the content. And on the other hand, of course, the members, the authors, the composers, and the publishers that we represent, they want a fair remuneration for the use of their content. So keeping a fair balance between the interests of both parties is a big challenge. And another challenge of CMOs, I think, is to follow and to see what happens around in a world where technology is evolving rapidly and where we have to run and seek possibilities to make sure that everybody gets a fair remuneration, knowing that the technology is still ahead of us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Julian. I'm head of digital strategy and innovation at SACEM. And I would say my biggest challenge is not knowing what will be the next challenge. So because everything is changing, and as a CMO, we always have to license and collect and get our members paid, but everything is changing fast, so we have to be really aware of what's happening. That's the biggest challenge.
My name is Vicki Nauman. I run a consultancy from Los Angeles called Cross Border Works, so I sit in between music companies and tech companies. I think that it's kind of a double-edged sword because I feel like the biggest opportunity is we have all of these new technologies, new experiences, everything from gaming to metaverse to all sorts of things with casual creators. But there's a lot of gray area and ambiguity and around what licenses and what those rights look like and how we're going to structure deals. And we want to stay ahead of that so we can keep innovation flowing and not have a ask for forgiveness type of default on how to get music integrated into these experiences. So it's the proverbial problem in music is tech moves faster than music, but we want to try to bring those things together.
Hi, I'm Nita Raghawansi. Wear a bunch of hats. I'm Executive Director of Folk Alliance International, President of Music Managers Forum, MMF US, Global Co-Chair of Women in Music, and a lawyer of 30 plus years. I love music rights. I'm a co-founder of NPREX, National Performing Rights Exchange. Biggest challenge, there's such a long list that the biggest is hard
What's
to...
the first thing that pops into your head?
Right. So, creators and copyright owners are not getting their licenses valued adequately. Their music uses adequately valued is huge. Huge. I mean, why does my music and Beyonce's music cost the same to a radio station? It doesn't make any sense to me. It never will. monitoring gap as well, because so many uses are not being tracked adequately when we have such lovely technology, and yet it's not being used by middleman societies such as PROs and CMOs. Not every single one, but a whole lot of
I knew
them.
there were going to be some PRO jabs today.
Yes.
I was just wondered how long it would take.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Hi, I'm Christian Martin. I'm the president of the board of Playwright, which is the collective management organization for the neighboring rights of the performers. I'm also a musician and music producer myself. Our biggest challenge, I think, now is to make concrete results. To obtain concrete results on the two new remuneration rights we obtained last year for the digital platforms. For our performers, that's a concrete challenge. And yeah, to make the remuneration rights evolve with the evolution of technology and AI and everything.
Thank you. So I think actually that sort of leads into my next question. We're talking about all these new technologies and these new ways to monetize that we haven't exactly defined what are those rights. Like when we're talking about someone licensing their voice to AI, what is that called? How do we, what value do we put on that? How do we monitor that? How do we report it and pay out on it? So on that note, given all of the rapid technology advancements, do you guys feel that some of the more traditional rights and ways of licensing music are starting to lose some of its value, and there's a shift into these sort of, I'll say, new set of rights and licensing practices? And can you give any examples of where you've seen emerging technology create these new opportunities and almost, I hate to use this expression, but I don't know how to say it any other way, trump existing rights and practices and sort of what they mean to creators and ultimately where creators are putting their energy into monetizing their music? Does that make sense?
Full on question. Should I jump in?
Go jump in.
Gosh. Okay. So AI, will go there. Of course, there are legal loopholes. There are gray areas. It is yet again a technology that has been created where we look at the law and it's not completely clear on what goes where. So that's important that we start looking at legislation, at the regulatory framework, country to country. We look at sound-alikes, for example, with the use of voice in sound recordings, and the way that the AI is being trained is certainly not taking a sample, but rather training the type of voice, in a sense, the attributes of the voice to be able to create a sound-alike. That doesn't fall under copyright law.
Right,
that falls under rights of publicity. In the United States, it's a patchwork of laws from state to state. There's a California court that would say one thing around what it takes to have a right, and then after post-mortem, what an estate can go after on that right. New York has a bit of a different way of looking at that right, and it goes on and on and on. So there's definitely gray areas that need to be filled. It's lots of fun to think about, but I also think about the opportunities in that I think about artists who might get to allow an AI company to do re-records and of sound-alikes of their recordings and thereby circumvent their prohibition in their contracts against re-recording. They may be able to get around it somehow. That's an interesting new opportunity for artists potentially. When I hear artist managers talk about being afraid of AI, very, very afraid, especially ones who manage very high-level artists, I'm like, wait, think about it a little longer. There might be opportunities. I don't know if you've heard the latest Grimes deal, but but Grimes, is that a trend? It might be, and that's a good trend. And so I'm excited for the opportunities and the deals that are there to be had.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the world that we're in right now, a lot of the monetization that we have is big platforms. And these are streaming platforms and social media platforms. And there's, sound recording, publishing, and performance rights that we've established over the last 15, 20 years. But I think this new wave of experiences that are coming out, it's really not so much about big catalogs of music. It's about an artist and maybe a collection of songs of their own, or maybe some small, a small catalog of music for background. And so these are not necessarily big platform deals. And that creates all sorts of issues when the labels are used to licensing their entire catalogs and performing rights, or are sitting underneath everything else. So I think that we're moving into an era where all of these things with, I do a lot of work with gaming companies, so games, metaverse, immersive experiences, AI and some of the casual creators, and using, remixing and stems. These are really small collections of music rights. But they also, almost all of them include artist name, image, and likeness. And that is something that I think is, whomever controls artist name, image, and likeness in the future is in a fantastic position, because there are a lot of, there's a lot of things that are happening where the artist may have a presence and they may not have any of their sound recordings, but there still is name, image, and likeness rights of that artist. And I think more and more what we're seeing is platforms that are desiring to work with artists and artist fans and their persona and how they think and how they create. And maybe the sound recordings don't even exist alongside that. So I think there's a new role that's emerging probably at management companies, and there are already a couple of collectives that are starting to swoop in and manage these artist name, image, and likeness rights. So that kind of falls outside of our traditional institutions.
Vivi, I'm curious, because you and I were on a panel long ago on catalog sales, and are you seeing name, image, likeness now be part of catalog deals? When one is selling the catalog, they're also adding in those rights?
I've seen a few of these, but mostly if the artist is alive, they're retaining it, and if they're dead, then the estates are retaining it, because there's still things like biopics and other now with all this new tech, I can imagine bringing artists from the past back to life, and that those rights have value. But I know, like Iconoclast in particular, with Olivier, he's doing a lot of this, where he's trying to do the name, image, and likeness as well as sound recording.
I used to work for Olivier.
Oh, nice.
I did.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Julian?
just coming back to the first part of the question, and how are music rights doing and what's booming, and the title of the panel, but I think just to bring good news, music rights are going quite well currently, and when we see the figures of SACEM and almost all CMOs, we are in a very fast-growing market still.
And I saw a report
I
from
think
Stim this
it's
morning.
important to remind that. So compared to 2019, the figures from 2022, we compare to 2019 because it's before the pandemic, we have a growth of more than 100% in online rights. So
And is that from more rights holders having the
It's-
ability to put music out into the world, or that's from refined?
I
collection
wouldn't say that.
processes?
But the market is growing so fast that the rights are also growing. So, and it's from music, VOD, SVOD, and VOD, SVOD are the parts that are growing faster. So it's important to think about AV, everything to movies, music in the movies, music in the TV shows. It's really a growing market. And there's almost no channels, I would say, that are decreasing, except for physical stuff like CDs and vinyls, and it's not decreasing that fast.
Although vinyl, I think, is actually growing right now.
Yeah.
Like public lending, but it still exists.
Yeah.
And it's on physical
Yeah, so
media.
that's kind of a problem for us also, because we have to deal with all the new stuff, but at the same time we have to keep maintaining the old stuff because it's still selling. So it's becoming kind of a tricky situation to maintain all our system operating with all this new stuff, while all the stuff is still there.
Yeah,
That's a good problem.
I agree. We are also in a growing stage at Playwright. We have 25% of increasing revenue in comparison to the 2019, and we are not collecting on the streaming streaming yet. Okay. Then we have a nice future, I think, as CMO, but. There are challenges, of course, and issues. And one of our mission is also to make the politics understand what the issues and the challenges are. And it's what we do also, because we are behind the technology, but we are behind the law also. And the politics have a great role in that.
Yeah, we speak a lot about music tech, but music law and lobbying is really, really key in our industry. It's very important. And also, I would say, we always speak about AI, NFTs. It exists, it's really interesting, but it's really almost nothing in the market currently. So online is almost everything. So I forgot to mention that in 2022, for the first year, online rights at SACEM, so it's musical DSP, VOD, SVOD, it's more than 50% of the global market. So it's really, really impressive.
That's good to know.
7 years ago, it was 8%.
Wow. Serge?
Yeah, just as a detail, well, it's not a detail, but there is a side effect. Of course, all CMOs have figures that are sky high now, but one thing is not to be forgotten. It's the value of music. And value of music dropped drastically when the physical market disappeared. And well, there are still some CDs that are sold. And even if vinyl is coming up, it's not the physical market as we knew it a few years ago. Then we had the internet, the downloads, and we had a very drastic fall in the value of music when CDs were not sold anymore, but music was downloaded. And then afterwards, very quickly afterwards, people stopped downloading and they started streaming. And they had the opportunity to have subscriptions, but premium, freemium. And we see there was another drop in value of music. And I'm sharing the concern of Christian. The politics needs to make sure that we keep receiving fair value for members, and that can be done, for instance, as an example, to make sure that the platforms rise their subscription prices.
Yeah, so like more regulation across the board.
Yeah, fully agreed. And thanks for mentioning that. So it's true that the average revenue per user is constantly decreasing in DSP subscription because of family plans and I give you 3 months for free if you buy a phone and so on. And so it's constantly decreasing. So, and I remember yesterday someone showed that the average spend in music is like $2.29 a month. It's, no comment.
Well, I think it's such a good point, though, because if we go back, because I'm old and I've been around and doing this since 1999, that in the early days, in the early
she's young. She's young.
In the early days, when we created the $9.99 business model and the all-you-can-eat model, it was in rampant piracy, and there was data of in the previous era that people, the average music person, listened to the radio. They were casual. They listened to the radio and they bought maybe 1 or 2 CDs a year. So they spent maybe $20 to $40 a year on recorded music. So we created this $9.99 model. There were many different, reasons behind it, but a primary one was how can we migrate people off of P2P and give them extraordinary value of giving them, all the music that was ever created for $120 a year, which is much more than they ever spent before, but they got a lot more value out of it. So we did that, and in the process, it worked. It took, 15 years for us to really get this model to work. But in the process, if you think about the value pyramid, the people like me and probably most of the people on this panel, we used to buy 5 to 10 CDs a month. And so we were spending
Some of us bought
500
cassette tapes.
yeah, we were spending like $500 to $1,000 a
8-track.
year. And we lopped off that high spending top of the pyramid when we created the $9.99 model, because for people who spend $1,000 a year, they got the best bargain in the world. And so now this is where I feel like some of these really special experiences that are coming out in gaming and in immersive experiences, there really aren't very many ways for people to spend more money on music digitally. Yes, for live music, but not in digital. And I feel like we need to recapture those high spending fans and the super fans and give them more ways to spend money on artists and music. Not for just access and music in the background of your home, but something that's really, really special.
But I also think that we haven't gotten anywhere close to that ceiling of what a consumer will pay per month on a subscription price. I think there's room to grow. I don't think we're at market value of what they're getting yet.
Well, no, and it's also because the streaming services are all basically, the same catalog, whereas, like it's with video, it's such a slippery slope, because it's like, oh, now I subscribe to Prime and Netflix, and then, oh, there's a show I want on Hulu, and then I have HBO, and then, oh, it's Sundance, and so I'm spending way more on video subscriptions, even though I value music more.
Same. That's a really good point. Do you want to add something? Very interesting. So I know we've talked a lot about AI, and this is the last time I'm going to mention it, but not just AI. All the new technologies, we're often discussing it in the sense of how it's helping or hurting, the debate is out creating, but talking about managing music rights and more to manage and more types of revenue streams coming in. Have you guys started to implement some of these new technologies for your actual rights management for your systems that you mentioned before? And can you talk a little bit about how you see that unfolding in the next few years?
Yeah. So there are two sides of AI at SACEM. So AI and creation. I won't speak about that because it has been done a lot already. But there is AI in our day-to-day operations, and it's a big opportunity because we deal with massive amount of data.
Yeah.
So we are already using some stuff like mismatch detection, data reconciliation, distribution forecast, stuff like that. But we really aim to increase the footprint of AI in our operations, and it's kind of necessary. I mean, it's not new. We have been using machine learning, deep learning stuff for quite a while. And now we are in the process with the innovation team, SACEM Lab, to detect what are the opportunity of generative AI, but in our operation, what it could bring to the system, because we are flooded by data and it's a real opportunity.
Do you think sorry to interrupt, does anyone on this panel think there's a true opportunity to create like a full global source of truth by using these
It's a big word.
technologies?
It's a big word. Global.
Is that ever going to happen?
It's
or
not a
there's
technological issue.
It's the human issue, right?
It's a human issue.
It's a human.
Just curious.
It's a governance issue.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do think if we think about AI and we just set generative AI aside, because that's that's one thing. But there's so many other uses of AI, and there are a lot of things around rights and rights management, matching publishing to sound recordings, that I think these problems are kind of going beyond human capability. And I feel like AI could be deployed to use for all sorts of things in rights management. And when you think about this on a scale, we have about 100 million sound recordings that are available in streaming services, more or less. And then you have approximately 10 writers per song on average. So we have 1 billion shares of writer and publishing shares. And then those shift a bit on a country-by-country basis because of sub-publishing and who's representing whom and who's signed up to which PRO. And and this is a massive, massive data problem that I think AI, if we get the right motivation for the human problem, if we can use AI, I think that we could also start to, better connect and get the money flowing to the rightful owners on the publishing side.
But part of that is also on the payee side. Often when we were building out systems, what we've come up against is that there needs to be a sharing of data, for example, between a CMO and PRO on what are the writer share payees, which aren't always necessarily clear on the performance side to even the publishers. They don't always know. And so there has to be some sort of openness and sharing of data if we want that system to work, which is why, yes, it's a human problem. But I am excited about, like Cliff Flewitt yesterday mentioned Copyworks, and as building their AI technology side to help fix the metadata problems. And I'd love to see where, there's that company, there's others. I'd just love to see where it goes to fix the stuff that, yes, is still a problem. There's tons of mistakes, right? There's tons of attributions that are mislabeled. So,
of course, there are big opportunities in that. We work on that on an international level with our SCAPER organization, which regroups.
well.
Yeah. Then I think, there are a lot of things that can be done, and the technology is there. We saw yesterday it's possible to connect everything from the use of a track or an audiovisual work to the casting automatically, and with AI correcting the mistakes. And it's possible, but I agree it's more human and a human thing to connect everything at the same way with the same spirit, and it's difficult.
You mentioned the spirit, and I want to give an answer to my own question, because this morning with my manager hat on, I was once again looking at a proposed split sheet, thinking about how everyone in the room, thinks about what they should be getting in terms of a split on a song differently based on their experience in the room and what they think they contributed to a song. And then there's the samples and the whole thing. And how amazing would it be if there was some little AI bug in the corner of a recording studio to monitor everything and then generate what the split should be. So if anyone
happening.
can build that, someone is building that.
I just can't talk about it right now.
I am all in on that.
It's one of the splits companies in the app who's going that next step
because
further.
I think that's part of where the human, the human element starts. Obviously, is in the room and people trying to figure out who gets what, so to speak.
And also, I forgot to mention, there is a big opportunity with AI in fraud detection, because we are currently
In what
facing
detection?
fraud.
Oh, fraud.
Yeah, because everybody is thinking about fake streams, but I mean fake works, registration
Yeah.
to get the money
get the
from
money, yeah.
other artists, and it's kind of growing, because it's a growing market.
People are
There's so
learning
much
about
money.
how to
As
do
long
it.
as there are money, there will be people cheating, and AI is an opportunity also for that.
So you mean people registering and claiming a work is theirs and it's not theirs?
Yeah, they put the ISRC to another recording and getting the publishing.
And they did a Beatles cover and they registered themselves as the publisher. I do agree with you on that, and I think that this is also, we have this convergence of the long tail of creators at CD Baby, DistroKid, Boomy, the AI company. I mean, it's just hundreds of thousands of creators who are populating. They're populating their metadata around who owns the composition, and partially, I think there's a lot of people who just don't understand what that means, and that a lot of artists who are young and naive, and they think, well, if I did a cover of a song, then I own everything on that song. But there's also a lot of gaming of the system, and and it is really interesting because in the more social platforms and UGC platforms, there's all sorts of rules that were put in place to try to do takedowns and make sure that there's claiming systems and better ways to check on fraud. But in DSPs, they were all set up as part of a supply chain from labels, and so there was more of an assumption that there wasn't going to be the same kind of fraud in DSPs. But what we're seeing is now, fraud is kind of rampant everywhere, and AI could certainly use a lot of different attributes to say, is this accurate? Probably not, and flag it.
I was at Sound Exchange for 8 years, a neighboring rights society in the U.S., and I was always surprised that no one ever filed for various artists, because we had a lot of money for various artists in that black box.
Or unknown composer.
I agree. AI is the best to track bad use of AI. Like former hackers are the best to hunt the real hackers of today. AI will be perfect to track AI.
I agree with that. So shifting away from AI and speaking to even the title of the panel, what happened to NFTs, the metaverse, Web3? Is that still a thing? Is that something that creators should be putting energy into? I remember during the pandemic when MFTs, I told you I was on New York Times, when NFTs were the thing, and that's how artists were going to make money, at the time, and now no one talks about it anymore. And I don't even think, I think it came so quickly from my experience that certain publishers, for example, never even modified their agreements to reflect the rights and licensing in those spaces. They just lumped it under digital usage, and then everything kind of faded away. I'm just curious to get your guys' take on that.
Well, I don't think that it's dead, but it's being, it's modifying right now in what it is. I mean, NFTs it's kind of a dirty word right now because there was so much opportunism, and a lot of artists really have stepped away from doing it because they feel like they don't want to take advantage of their fans. They don't want their fans to think that they're being opportunistic. There's also a lot of these artist communities that were built in this boom around creating NFTs, and those artist communities are languishing, and it's for the same reason that a lot of direct-to-fan things don't work, because guess what? The artists want to be artists. They don't want to, send messages to a, community. So I think what is happening with NFTs in general is they're really kind of morphing into more loyalty programs and more community-based. So it is still happening, and but it's just taking a different shape, and because of combination of crypto problems and whatnot. But but on the metaverse side and the experiential side, there's still companies out there and they're building. And you have to remember, everything with decentralized technology is kind of like the early days of digital, where there isn't infrastructure. So everyone's building infrastructure in decentralized tech, and there isn't an equivalent of AWS or other kinds of infrastructure that, you think back to the early days of digital, where we didn't have devices, we didn't have storage, we didn't have cloud-based systems, we didn't have ubiquitous Wi-Fi, we didn't have data networks. And so that's all infrastructure, and it took years to build that so that we can fire up an iPhone and get a stream on demand anywhere in the world. But all of these things in Web3 there's still a lot of companies building in it, but they're having to build, tech stacks and infrastructure.
And on the consumer fan side, I mean, there's still an ethos of that not just on consumer side, on creator side, that decentralization is a good thing, that it's the other alternative to this existing centralized world, right? And so I think there's just going to continue to be a love for it, a spirit for it out there of people who want to see a decentralized experience survive, or a decentralized initiative or activity. So it'll keep going.
And there are things. I mean, like Armada Music is doing amazing things with fan engagement using decentralized tech. There's Audius that's trying to figure out what their model is and how they're going to do it. But they're all very different in terms of, it's not, the value proposition isn't, pay one low price and get every song ever created. It's really more around engagement and between artists and fans and a different way to connect.
And I think as long as we speak about blockchain and NFTs, they are just techs. So it's never a good sign when you speak about the tech, because it means it doesn't work, it doesn't find its usage.
And
when
it
you
would
have
be like, it would
usage,
be like us debating
yeah,
Oracle
yeah,
databases on
so
stage.
when you have short form video, you don't care what is underlying tech and with TikTok or shorts or anything. You absolutely don't care. You just like the usage and you use it. So probably not hearing anymore about NFTs doesn't mean it's dead. Maybe it's fading, or maybe it's
but
no
it's-
much more usage.
But I feel like my point is that I think it's shifting to be used in a different way that's not monetizing a new right, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because at the time, I felt like it was being hailed as a way for people to make money, and now, like as you're talking about community, it's more about just that extra community building tool, I think.
Yeah, I think there's.
Yeah.
I won't repeat what Vicky just said, but I fully agree. For me, it's not dead. There is still a lot of opportunities. It will take time to build. The UX is not there yet,
Right.
so it doesn't help adoption. But I'm still a believer in it because also it's a huge opportunity for the high tier of spenders in music. Right? If I want to spend more than $10 a month, I have almost nothing to spend about except going to concerts or maybe buying NFTs or something like that. So there's still a big room.
I think the user experience is a really, really important one too, because if you think about it was really enthusiasts that were doing this, and it was a crazy time period, right? You're like, okay, you're going to buy some crypto, and then you're going to create a MetaMask account, and then you put the crypto in your MetaMask account, and then you're going to connect your MetaMask account to one of the NFT platforms, and then you connect it, and then you have to disconnect it so it doesn't get stolen out of it. I mean, like that is not a mass market user experience, and so we really have to get those to be as elegant. And I think with music consumers in particular, we're used to this incredible elegance. If you're using Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon, that you don't even have to think about logging in and getting access to the songs you like. And so people expect that level of a user experience in anything with music now.
So we're running up to time, and I just wanted to see if there were any audience questions. Yeah.
We're talking a lot here,
Hello.
We're talking a lot here about music rights actually becoming, the basic music rights as we know becoming a commodity. And I was really sparked by one of your remarks where you said, like, the video platforms don't have that because they actually own the content rights for let's say, the publishing. So skipping away from music rights being a commodity, and I found it very interesting, like the catalogs on Deezer, Spotify, the rest of them are all the same. While if I want to watch a certain video show, I have to go to HBO Max, or I have to go to a YouTube channel or something else. Have we sold out by the entire catalogs, or would it be interesting to make like a metalify or an EDMify or like compartmentalize depending on the communities that really listen to that music?
I absolutely think that there is a lot of room to spin up communities around niches of music and tribes, because it's something different than just getting access to music and there have been a couple of companies that have tried this and have had some success. Scale is really tough in creating these models, but I think that is also part of the promise of a lot of Web3 and decentralized technologies, is that they really are designed not to be about coming there and getting everything that's ever created, but engaging more deeply around music that you love and other fans. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. Maybe some of it's going to be decentralized tech, maybe it's centralized tech, but I think that this is an unmet need in music, is that people want to engage more deeply with other fans and with the artists, but our platforms don't really have that element to them right now.
I mean, the DSPs do compete against each other and do get exclusives from artists, but usually for a certain time period on new releases, and then they let it go. So there could definitely be more around that, but then the pricing on the per subscriber rate may need to change a little bit, right? Because do you you know, if you love Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and you have to go to Apple for it, I mean, there's the interoperability if you're an Android user, of course, and you may not want that, maybe, I don't know. But you're also going, well, maybe I should only pay $4.99 a month in the US, not $9.99 a month, because I'm gonna have to pay 2 other services to go get my EDM and my folk. And so there is a question on how the pricing scheme would have to change, and I wonder if we're too far out of the gate now to change.
There's
altogether.
probably room for that, but not just only with music. Because if you have the same music with the rest of everything for $10, you won't pay for a specific platform just for metal, let's say. But if it comes with something else, I think it's what we have seen this morning in the media report, which was really interesting. There is a lot around music that can be brought to both creators and consumers. So I think there is a lot of room for niche services, but you have to bring more than just the music.
Exactly, like social elements where people can engage with each other, they can engage with the artists, they can, you know, geek out around, you know, their favorite black metal track. And but I feel like you can't just say, here's a you know streaming service that has a subset of what a mass streaming service is. It's like there's just no reason why someone would do that. I think the single exception of that could be something like a, you know, Christian, you know, somebody who has a vested interest in excluding certain types of music and having a catalog that fits with some sort of religious or, you know, personal ideals. But for the most part, I feel like the ship has sailed on getting access to music. That problem has been solved. And so now it's what other kinds of things can we allow fans to go deeper?
But it's also a matter of concurrence. There are a lot of newcomers in the video. In music, it's not the same. Here in Belgium, if you are not on Spotify, you are not existing. It's not the same market. Maybe it's because it's older, but yeah, you have to deal with that too. If you want your music heard, you have to go to Spotify in Belgium, but in Amazon in England maybe, or it's different from market to market. But there are one big platform per market in music. It's not maybe the same in video. I don't know.
I think we have
Thank
time
you.
for one more question, and then it's lunchtime.
Hi, thank you. I'm sorry if I missed it, but I'm really curious what your take is on AI and how it drives blockchain. Is there a relation there? And how quickly can we move to blockchain?
I think almost all of the decentralized and Web3 companies have an AI element. They always have, and it's kind of woven throughout. And so I think it can be, a part of an experience, part of infrastructure. But I think there is this convergence of both decentralized technologies and AI that are going to be, further defined probably in the next, 2 to 5 years of what that really looks like. And it is, and at the same time, AI is just going to overlay on almost everything that we know now.
And then I just love those legal challenges around it, because it'll be like, well, what country's laws are applicable? Is there copyright infringement if in a decentralized world? And how does that really work? I mean, when you don't have international treaties that are actually applicable right now to enforcement of anything in the AI spectrum.
That was the question I left out. How do you do copyright management in a decentralized ecosystem? But we'll save that for next time.
It's fun.
We definitely need a blend of our traditional systems
Blend is a
and
good
all of these
word.
new systems, and continuing to use ISRCs and ISWCs in all of these decentralized worlds as well.
Yeah, the future of lawyers is maybe brighter than the future of a musician. I don't know.
Time for that
Let's
lottery.
hope.
Well,
I hope not.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, everybody, and have a nice lunch.